The euro is renewing its fall today. My next guest has spoken out about the pitfalls of bailout nation or bailout group of nations. He's John Cochrane, the professor of finance at the University of Chicago's Booth School of Business. And John, good to have you with us. And I know earlier this week you had written an editorial in the Wall Street Journal noting that essentially, what we've got now in Europe is opening the door to bailouts. And every time you hear Angela Merkel speak, you see another sell-off in the markets. Are these European leaders becoming their own worst enemies?
I think so, in part because they're not saying anything particularly convincing about what's going on. It's the speculators, it's psychology, it's the short sellers. No, the Greeks don't have the money to pay it back.
Right, they simply do not, and you simply don't think that there's even enough money in Europe to pay to bail out every country or bail out the countries that are in trouble, right?
Well, eventually, no. I mean, the Germans and French can't borrow enough or raise enough taxes to pay off Portugal, Italy, Spain, all the rest of them. So at some point, we got to figure this out and stop trying to paper it over and kick the can down the road. Well,
but is it too late to reverse, John?
Oh, I don't think it's ever too late to reverse. The big problem here, we call this the Greek bailout. It's not the Greek bailout. It's the Greek bondholder bailout. The people who own Greek debt aren't being asked to chip in a cent. I think where this will have to end up is some sort of restructuring of Greek debt where Greek bondholders are asked to lose a little bit of money.
So you mean at some point then the European leaders have to come together and say enough is enough, and when that happens, do you expect that confidence could be restored?
Well, that will have to happen. The question is, how long are we going to put it off, and how bad is it going to be when it happens? The longer you paper it over, the worse it is when it actually hits. Right now, they're not really bailing Greece out. They're lending Greece more money. Well, Greece is going to have to pay that money back, too. And then eventually, we're going to have a problem.
Right. They're not writing off that debt by any means, yes, as you point out. Okay, so
they may soon.
Right. Okay, so then, John, if we were to see a scenario like a restructuring of Greek debt, what would that likely do to the euro?
Well, I think it would be the best thing in the world for the euro. The trouble with the euro right now is that we all understand that if everybody has to be bailed out, eventually you have to print euros to bail everybody out, and that leads to inflation. And that's, I think, the reason why you're seeing right now the euro falling. The euro as a currency would be much stronger if countries were allowed to default, and then we knew the European Central Bank wasn't ever going to be printing up euros to bail out countries.
Yeah, but you say it would be the best thing for the euro, but do you actually think that in reality that would play out?
Sure. I wouldn't say it was the best thing if I didn't think it was reality. Now, the countries would have to default. Some people would lose a lot of money, and they'd be unhappy. But the currency is far stronger if you don't use it to bail out countries or companies that are getting in trouble.
Okay, all right. What I mean by that is that, I think what you're saying makes a whole lot of sense. But as you know, markets, when they start to fall on fear, lose out on that nuance. I mean, wouldn't you agree with me? We saw that here.
Well, I don't know. Maybe these fears are very justified right now. I mean, it doesn't seem to me like an irrational fear to worry that the European Central Bank is going to start eventually printing up euros in order to buy up worthless debt. That seems like a very irrational fear.
Okay. What is irrational? Is this idea of a Greek default systemic risk? Is that irrational?
Well, I don't say rational or irrational. I haven't heard a story that makes much sense of systemic risk. Remember, Greece is not an investment bank. They don't have thousands of counterparties, derivative contracts. It's just, somebody who borrowed money and can't pay it back. And the people who lent it money certainly should have thought a little bit about maybe this country can't pay us back. Mm-hmm. So the systemic argument doesn't seem to apply to me.
It doesn't hold water. Okay. All right, John. Good to talk with you. I really appreciate it. John Cochrane, a professor of finance at the University of Chicago's Booth School of Business.